Here is a Lake Breeze branded fan. This is more or less identical inside to this Living Solution one that I show a couple days ago or whenever it was. This is the same as the one that I found in the trash a couple years ago that was all painted over. So now the mystery is confirmed to be solved. It would have been branded Lake Breeze. I would guess this is a 2000s product. It says January of 2003 or November of 2002. Either way, it probably sold in the summer of 2004. Model number TX12P M desk fan. Now this is branded Shell Electric manufacturing company, and then by the time 2005 comes around, this one is now branded Midea. Actually, this is really 2006, 2007. So there's some ambiguity. There's a correlation between SMC and Midea, which I'm not sure that anybody really understands, or if there is someone that understands and has published information, I just haven't seen it yet. Because we know that the fans labeled Midea and the fans labeled Shell Electric or SMC were identical. It's just a question of who made what and for how long. So this one I kind of like better. I like the gray blade. When I was growing up, my grandfather had the SMC TH12. By the 2000s, a lot of basic appliances like this were just all white and plain. So I was kind of interested in this one because it had the gray blade, which was a bit out of the ordinary. This is a polarized plug, no fuse, although 2003 is getting close to the fuse plug era for everything, because I believe 2003 is when that first Lasker recall came through that swept up all those box fans. What a mess. But this appears to be pretty much little or no hours. Yeah, there's hardly any dust to speak of on the inside. There is some here, so it looks like it might have been cleaned up at one point. For what it's worth, a fairly decent job was done, but the telltale location is usually in the back of the blade in here. This was definitely cleaned at some point, because you can see there's all this dust inside of there. So somebody had cleaned this at some point, which is kind of unusual to come across a fan that somebody actually took the time to clean. See, there's some residual dust up there, so that's interesting. So this has been used, although it has been cleaned. Bearings seem good still. These utilized, at least in the early days anyways, they utilized steel bearings, which will last a long time as long as they don't lock up. Once they dry out and lock up, then you've got trouble. But up until then, you're usually pretty good for a while. Yeah, there's some hours on this. Nothing crazy, but definitely more than I initially thought. And just for comparative purposes, over the course of 3 or 4 years, it's the same. So as you can see, it is the same product inside mechanically under 2 different names. So I don't know. I don't know enough about the history of the brands to say. I'm sure somebody probably does, but I'm not that person. I think these are pretty good. I have used this before. I've used the other one that I found, and it's an excellent fan. It's kind of funny because these were the bottom of the barrel at the time, and now, you know, just 20 years later, these fans are getting to be 20 years old now. It's kind of crazy. 20 years later, you can't buy a fan this good anymore, which is really abysmal and pretty sad. Very sad state of affairs, the products that we have today. So let's go ahead and turn this on now. We'll start up on the low. We're testing at 119.9 volts. Actually got a considerable startup sound to it. And this is already just about as powerful as any fan you can buy today in this form factor. It's moving quite a bit of air. Far more air than the Holmes Tool Cool ever will move. And it's very quiet. Let's see if I go across the room here, do we still feel it? Oh yeah, I can feel it clear across the room. Strong breeze over here. Yeah, these are very good fans. Alright, the two. Oh, power information. 0.26 amps, 31 watts, with a power factor of 0.99. 2. Balance is pretty reasonable. It's not 100%, but it's reasonable enough that I wouldn't mess with it. Considerable increase in speed. Very powerful. It's still considerably quiet. All the way across the room. Plenty of air movement still. In regards to the power information, we have 0.28 amps, 32 watts with a power factor of 0.97. And the high, which is the fastest speed. This sounds very similar to the TH12. Yep, very, very similar. This is extremely powerful. Look at that. That's really throwing the air. This is as cheap as these ever should have gotten. They never should have gotten any cheaper than this. Because this is where you have a pretty economical product, but it's still actually decent. These are powerful, they're quiet, and we have seen consistently that they last. The power information is 0.29 amps, 34 watts with a power factor of 0.98. So for 0.3 amps, this is a tremendous amount of air. This, I would say, gives you more air than a modern day Lasco 3733. All the way across the room, there's a strong breeze. And it's wide too, it doesn't feel like it's coming from a small fan. There's a bit of a rattle. It sounds like something to do with the bass, but I can't quite tell. That may be the bearings, I don't know. We'll have to check it out later. It's still in pretty reasonable balance. See how the circulation works. Now look at it, whip that paper around. Put that back down here, it's going to take it right back up again. That's moving some air. This thing's no joke. Either way, the oscillation is working. I would say these were some of the last really good oscillating desk fans. The Shell or the Medea ones seem to hold out decency for the longest. And the bearings are still plenty free. Even the Medea ones of today aren't half that bad, but they're not as strong as this. The bearings are dry. That should have coasted for a lot longer than that. Well, this will need a little bit of a servicing on the bearings and so forth. We'll do a deeper cleaning than the previous owner did. And this is definitely something I'm going to get a lot of use out of.